So again, this is from Grand Valley State University, and I do have my contact information in there. You're welcome to follow up with me after this, but I really do hope this will be an opportunity for all of us to dialogue. So to begin with, what I wanted to start out with is kind of set the stage as to peer review and what that means at Grand Valley State University. So as part of the faculty handbook, faculty are required to have peer evaluation done. And this is primarily for our full-time faculty, especially those that are in process of going up for renewal, tenure, a different path. And so the process of doing a peer evaluation is a very important part of what they do. So just pulling some things out of the faculty handbook to set the stage. So at our institution, whenever possible, the peer review is done by another faculty member, mostly in their own discipline, somebody with similar knowledge and experience. However, not all of our faculty teach online, not all of them teach hybrid, and we do have different definitions of modalities now, which I'll talk more about, but I'm going to keep it more to the online and hybrid piece of that, although we're going to get into the synchronous changes that we made because of high flex teaching and other modalities. So as a result, because sometimes we have faculty that are reviewing other faculty and they don't have actual experience teaching in this modality, it was important that some kind of a peer review rubric was created. Now, our team works very closely with our faculty to design their courses, but we do not design the courses for the faculty. They are responsible for creating their own course content. They are also required in order to teach an online or a hybrid course at Grand Valley State University. They do have to go through training. And so we have, similar to what ETOM offers, we have our own certification process that we go through here at Grand Valley State University. And give you a little bit of history. There is a subcommittee that is part of faculty governance that I sit on as an ex officio member. And the name of this subcommittee is our Online Education Microcredential Council, which is a mouthful. We just call it OEMC. And I'm just sharing the charges and our responsibilities of what it is that we do on this committee. A lot of what we're spending our time with this past year is looking at what new certificates or badges are coming up the pipeline through curriculum for review. It used to be that every course at Grand Valley State University, in order to be delivered in an online or a hybrid format, had to go through a review process. That changed over the last year, in which our committee is no longer approving courses, but we have to still approve faculty to be certified to teach online or hybrid. And just to give some information about why that changed, we were finding that a lot of departments were putting forth courses, but they themselves, whoever the person was putting forth the course, usually it's a department chair through the curriculum process, isn't the one actually teaching it. So it just found like there was a big disconnect. So the committee is no longer reviewing actual courses. And so that just changed this past year. What we are spending a lot of time on, though, is still looking at, pedagogical quality standards, and then looking at what professional development standards we have for our faculty. There's some other things bubbling up through the surface that I'm really excited about. It hasn't, we're going to just start to work on it. And that is, once faculty are certified, is there an expiration date? How many years before you really need to go back through some kind of a certification process again? Is it 3, 5? What is it? We've got faculty that went through our online training, 10 plus years ago. And so we're looking at now what can we do about putting some kind of an expiration date and then qualifying that with what are all the different ways that faculty can get professional development around online or hybrid education. So I'm really excited about that because that means our team's going to be even busier with getting faculty to actually attend training and go through some more updates and work with us. So I'm excited about that. In 2018, so we go back a bit here, at that time it was called the Online Education Council. One of their charges for the year was to make a recommendation of creating some kind of a review process for online and hybrid courses. And what came out of that is the need to create some kind of a rubric. And so this rubric, to be fair and to give credit where credit is due, it's a combination of things that you would find in Quality Matters, as well as what you might be very familiar with Chickering and Gamson. So it's a blend of a lot of different things here. In 2019, the rubric was put into place, so anybody that is teaching a peer, an online or a hybrid course has to have a peer review of that course. And then I put a link in here to our course definitions in the slide deck, just because I think, like many of you, we all, after the pandemic, we didn't all go back to just having high flex. We continued with, we're not using the word high flex, we're calling it a lot of other things, but there's still that modality that's happening. Not as much as truly asynchronous or synchronous or online, but I'm putting a link in my slide deck just so you know what all the definitions are at our institution. This past year, our group was asked to take a look at, changes because of Quality Matters and the update to that rubric. And then also trying to get at what do we do with classes that do have synchronous sessions? And if you're reviewing a synchronous session, what should you be looking for? So setting the stage for what happened with that. The rubric attributes, when we get into this today, you'll see that these are kind of the main areas that we're looking at with design and organization and the course expectations and student interaction and feedback and high expectations. And then this is the new piece right here, that synchronous session feedback. If there's an opportunity to actually watch someone teaching in a synchronous format, what are you looking for? And giving credit to the University of Southern California, because they have an excellent checklist, and we asked permission if we could use some of those attributes. So, as I said before, this rubric is in draft format, so it hasn't been officially approved. You're seeing it before other faculty are even seeing it at the institution. And now we can just kind of dive into the actual rubric. And this is where I'll try and make it a little bit bigger, as big as I can make it. So what happens at the institution is we have faculty that can do a couple of different things. Some faculty will ask to have another faculty member added to their Blackboard site with student access so that they can get in and actually do the review that way. Some instructors would prefer to have the instructor be with them, and together they walk through the course and go through it that way. Some instructors will create a video tour of their course, walking through the different elements of that rubric. Our team actually is not a part of the peer review process, but we do take the time when we go through our training to show our faculty this is a rubric that you may be asked to do for a peer review. So as part of the training, they are exposed to this rubric. And as they're building their courses, we want them to know about this. We also have another rubric that we use with our certification, which I'll share with you too. There's some other things that we do at the institution. So as you can see from this form, there's a key here at the top of, what are they looking for? Is it excellent, good, fair, poor? Did they not even observe it? And as you can see down here, one of the other things they do is they want to know, has that person ever been trained in online or hybrid teaching? Because it may be that the person, like I said, reviewing the course hasn't taught in that modality, hasn't ever been trained in that modality. And so they want that noted in there as well. And then there's some, information about what kind of course, format the delivery is. For our instructors, I will say the real meat of this is all the comments that they get. I think, yes, it's one thing to check a box to look for things. It's another thing to give really good detailed feedback on what it is that they're observing. So I think for many of you, you probably have checklists or rubrics or things that you might be using with your own faculty, and I'm excited to hear what other people are doing at your own institutions. But this is what we have here as part of that peer review for the course design, looking for evidence of, faculty announcements, building those personal communications, the course orientation tour. We're really pushing, the video tour to help our faculty welcome our students to their courses, having a clear, now that we're on Ultra, the navigation is a lot less complicated for our students than it was in our previous Blackboard, where anyone could customize anything they wanted to. And so no courses looked at all the same. So this is a lot better, I will say, in the move to Ultra. And then for us, we are a Blackboard Ally institution, so it's important that we look at accessibility, and we try to have our faculty, take a look at what does your Ally report look like, what is it showing? Course expectations here, again, looking for all kinds of things like the objectives, identifying the course materials, how are they going to be graded? What are your assessment requirements? We really encourage our faculty, although we have built in throughout Blackboard all links to all kinds of services. It's nice when our faculty take the time to pull those things out and include them in their Blackboard sites about, all the different ways that they can receive help through our service desk or DSR, any of those other things. And just to note here, some of the work here is we've got our citations there. You can see the faculty-student interaction. This is the part that I think is the meat of this, is seeing our faculty in action. We have encouraged when people do peer reviews not to do it at the beginning of the semester, but if they can get in there at least after midterm beyond, because there's a lot more activity going on in the course, seeing examples of just how many announcements are out there, discussion board participation, what kind of office hours and so forth. We are a Zoom school, so we're really pushing the ability for our faculty to have, their Zoom embedded in their courses. And now there's a functionality which is really nice with Zoom where scheduling, there's a scheduler that's available for signing up for office hours, which is great. And then this piece right here, looking at, what are we doing to engage our students? And, informal and formal. Obviously, the discussion piece is a big part of that. And so looking at our faculty modeling those kinds of things for the students, what kind of group assignments are happening, if any. And then the active learning piece. And this is something that our faculty, I think, with teaching in a classroom, it's much easier to observe these kinds of things, but looking for this in an online format, really kind of spelling out the different attributes here and what can you do and what should you be looking for, and looking at all the different alternative assignment options that might be available and how are you using those kinds of things. And then the prompt feedback part, looking at, how often, what are faculty doing as far as feedback, and is it specific kinds of feedback? And this is where for some faculty, it's important that they have that person right with them, and they might show examples of, the kinds of rubrics that they're using, the feedback that they're giving to their students, if there's opportunities for drafts or resubmissions, those kinds of works. And then the high expectations and looking at, examples of those kinds of things here. So this is the part that changed the most, and that is with our synchronous meetings. How are we looking for evidence of these kinds of things that we focus on up above? What can we do in those synchronous meetings? So in the examples here for design and organization, really kind of focusing on, what happens in those synchronous meetings. Does the instructor set the tone at the beginning? Are there learning objectives? What kind of introductory information is happening? What kinds of slides are being shared? And then making sure that, students have access to those materials offline, especially if there's a technical issue, making sure that our students have access to those slides. If there's a recording that's been done, making those available to our students. And making sure that, any materials or web links that were referenced during that session are also included in the Blackboard site for a student that may be absent. And then the active learning piece, how do you do that in a synchronous session? Are they using breakout rooms? Are they using other kinds of applications like Google or Padlet or other tools that we support at our institution here? Are they checking to see that the students are actively responding? Are they, keeping an eye in the chat, or are they pulling out students to speak? What kinds of things are they doing there? And then modeling those kinds of things. And as you can see here, looking at feedback, how are they engaging with their students, and making sure that there's opportunities for discussions and summarization of what's happening. And so that is where we're at with some of the revisions to this. I'm going to do a few more slides, and then I do want to open it up for questions and then for others to share. So that's the rubric. Some other rubrics that we share with our faculty, because we are a Blackboard institution, we do encourage faculty to put themselves forward and submit something to Blackboard to be an exemplary course. So we do I have a link here that will take you to Blackboard's example of their exemplary course rubric. We are a Quality Matters institution, but we are not asking faculty to have their courses Quality Matters certified. We're really kind of bringing that back again. I will say with the pandemic, we had learning communities about Quality Matters. And then it felt like with everything that happened with the pandemic, it was just, we just need to focus on what we can do to support our faculty with there was just too much. And then we went through an LMS migration. And so we moved from Blackboard Original to Blackboard Ultra, and that was a huge project. And during that time, we spent a lot of time with our faculty really thinking about course design as we were migrating. So QM was a part of that, but really our focus was just on the big work that we needed to do with migrating to a new LMS. So we're bringing Quality Matters back. We've got some learning communities that we started with our Faculty Teaching and Learning Center. As part of the training that I talked about that our faculty are required to do, I put a link out here so that you can take a look at this. Part of the work that happens in our training is that faculty have to complete a peer review rubric. And they have a choice in our training. We give them a course that they're loaded in that they can take a look at, and they can do a peer review of that course. Or we ask them to do a peer review of their own course. And part of the work that they do in foundations is they're building out one module at minimum. And there's a lot of other things that we ask them to do in that training. So this is an example of the peer review rubric that's part of the training that we have. And whenever possible, we try and focus on Quality Matters and what that means, and so that they have at least some exposure to that in the initial training. And so faculty, one of their homework assignments in the training is to fill this out and complete this at the end. And then I did put some information in here about our own training. ETOM offers their certification too, but like many of you might have your own versions of that at your institutions. And so I do have some information about what our faculty are required to do to get their certification for teaching online or hybrid courses, just as a follow-up for that. So I am going to stop screen sharing. And now I want to open it up for others to share or thoughts or questions.
Thanks, Kim. That was really good. Do you have a sense of how faculty are receiving it? Since this
Well,
hasn't been implemented yet, but
it's been going on since 2019. So it's kind of standard that faculty know they have to do a peer review of a course, with their colleague. So I don't think that's not an issue because it's been going on for so long, and it's just part of the tenure review process to do that. As far as like the synchronous piece of this, because we haven't even had a chance to share this with faculty governance yet, we've been giving it to faculty who say, hey, I've got somebody that's going to be in my Zoom session with me. Any ideas? So we've been giving it to people, even though it's not officially approved yet. It's just things to be looking for during that session. So that part is well received. As far as faculty required to do a peer review, because it's been part of the process for so long, yeah, it works. It's good. There's our team isn't actually associated with any of it, other than maybe we might need to enroll somebody in a course for a period of time to complete that peer review. But I really admire our faculty who go through this process and give really good constructive feedback to their colleagues. That's the part that's, I think, the most exciting, is to see, that good feedback. Ryan.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for this. Just wondering if there's do courses need to meet a certain level of E's or G's or F's in order to pass review? Is that how that works, or?
That part I'm not sure of, because it's really done within the college. I would suggest, from what I know for some faculty, that maybe we're newer to teaching online or hybrid and went through this process. If there were a lot of areas that seemed lacking, I know that we would often, that's where our team would get faculty sent back to us saying, hey, I just worked with this particular instructor and we're seeing that maybe they could use some more assistance with X, Y, or Z. But because we're not part of their actual review, I can't say that anyone's been told you are not going to be promoted because you didn't meet so much of whatever. I just know that we often might get a faculty sent back to us to work with.
Okay, thank you.
And we don't ever, it's rare. We don't even see the peer reviews. So unless somebody shares it with us, it's not like I'm ever going to see how somebody did on their review. Hi, Simon.
Hey, Kim, thanks for the presentation. Uh, I'm wondering about the Blackboard Exemplary Course program, how it fits in. Do you have instructors who are reaching out to that? And what will be their motivation to pursue the Exemplary Course program versus maybe the QM process?
We had a few last year, and you can probably imagine who some of them might be based on your time that you were here. We had a few, one in the CIS department. We had another one in the Allied Health department, who as soon as we moved over to Ultra, were like, what can we do with the exemplary? So we've been sharing it now. Justin in my team, Milik, who teaches, he put forth his course and got the approval for an exemplary course award. Is there motivation behind it? I think it's self-motivation for some faculty. We're just showing it as one more resource as they're, working on their courses. Does it mean anything at Grand Valley State University? Probably not. But for faculty who want to look at another tool, I think it's great to be able to have something else to give with them. We have some faculty recently that were hired at Grand Valley that actually have their courses certified from a previous institution. And so they're the ones that have reached out and said, hey, what are we doing? I understand that we have Quality Matters here. And because we really hadn't done much with it, now we're like, okay, we need to get going with the Faculty Teaching and Learning Center here and get some learning communities going. And how do we want to go about really getting this off the ground again? So we're at the very infancy of what do we want to do with QM other than remind folks about all the quality characteristics.
Well, I imagine that for peer review, for the local needs of promotion, someone might want to reach out to the Blackboard Exemplary Course Program, get anonymous reviews and improvements ahead of time from outside institutions, maybe get that credential, and then submit that to their local reviewers to say, well, this is what the other group found. So there might be benefits in kind of collaborating with multiple programs.
Yeah, no, I love that idea.
All right, thank you, Kim. If there are no other questions for Kim specifically, I know I've worked with a lot of you, and you also have rubrics that you use, quality programs. So now is the time to open the floor if you want to share something, if you came with something to share. But please, not everybody at once.
I'll share. Thank you for sharing yours, Kim. I really enjoyed seeing the comparison. We have something at the University of Alabama that's kind of follows the same track. And we also are a Quality Matters institution, but our courses are not necessarily reviewed each time. So we have like our own system and then Quality Matters as well, similar to what Kim was talking about. Our rubric we align it with Quality Matters because we want our instructors to be encouraged to do it, so they can see kind of what Quality Matters would be looking at compared to what we're addressing. And we went through the process of developing our rubric or revising our rubric last year. And one element that came up that our faculty actually asked for was to include something that's really important to our institution, which is relationship-based learning. So I also think it's a great, like these kind of review documents are a great opportunity to have faculty, like what do they see as really important to the online courses beyond like the things that we really need, right? Like accessibility review and like the contents in our syllabus and things like that. They're like it's a good opportunity to take it further, especially if you're developing it in conjunction and in collaboration with faculty. So we found that at our institution that we were able to like add a section basically on our rubric about relationship-based learning because that was very important to our institution on top of the other qualities that are also very important for distance education.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Any comments on that or anybody else? I know that we've heard from two universities. We also have community colleges here. We even have law school here. Hi, Dwayne. So anybody from community college perspective want to share something?
Sure. I'm from Schoolcraft College, and we are in Southeast Michigan, Livonia. We are a Quality Matters institution. We are Blackboard Ultra. We have a ready-to-teach model. Our online courses, our hybrid courses require approval. They use the Quality Matters rubric, and we have a custom template that we use for those approvals. We are also going through right now a rather long process of revising our faculty evaluation process. And it's shifting over from more of a quantitative focus. Before it used to require faculty to receive a minimum score. And then if it fell below that, they would have to be assigned a mentor and so forth. There was less collaboration. It was more so focused on that kind of what's my number? So we really tried to, we're focused on refining it to make it more meaningful, more collaborative. And since we have a collective bargaining agreement, we also are, it's a rather long process through in terms of receiving approval for it. And so it's a multi-stage process where faculty will have, depending on what camp they fall in. So we have probationary faculty, and then we have non-probationary faculty. So for the probationary faculty, they will be required to complete what we call a professional practice assessment. And that is a portfolio with a peer observation, and then one with an administrator observation. And so those peers and the peer observers have to be distance learning credentialed. Same for us. We offer an in-house credentialing course. And so for faculty who are teaching online, they will receive a peer observer who is credentialed to teach online. And then the administrator observation for those faculty who tend to teach more online, I would be the administrator who would observe. And coincidentally, this week I am observing an asynchronous course, and next week I will be. So I get access to the course for the whole week and go through the observation. And I will say, and I apologize, I should have shared this early on, but the thrust of the evaluation is focused on 3 pillars. Content expertise is one, communication and engagement is another, and then relationship building and community involvement is the third. And so our rubrics are designed around that. Our student surveys have been revised from 47 questions down to 12, and those are also connecting to the pillars. And so really trying to integrate that in, and then so they complete, bear with me because I know it's a lot, and I'm still learning the process too. So where faculty complete these professional practice assessments with the intention to use that towards integrating that into what we call an individual growth plan, focusing on continuous improvement. And so that opportunity they will have to meet with their instructional administrator and develop goals from that and have conversation and stay connected. And so it's really trying to make direct connections, associations, build rapport with faculty, engage, and understand what are the themes coming out of that? What needs are there? What areas of improvement should we be looking at in terms of when it comes to professional development? So we're also integrating badging into our, we're using Blackboard for badging, and we're starting a pilot with that to try to integrate that into the faculty evaluation process. So there's a multi-pronged approach coming in with it. And so far it's been good. I think it's shifted from that quantitative focus to more engaging, but it is a lot of work when you are working through something rather substantive and then certainly through a collaborative bargaining agreement.
Thank you, Lori, and welcome as our newest member of the ETOM Executive Board. Glad to have you on board and sharing. Anybody else? I know somebody came with something to share.
Lauren, are you ready to say something?
Nope, go ahead, take it away.
I thought you were, I was waiting for you. Well, at Mott, we're in the process of making a change right now, as a matter of fact, and we have a 3 o'clock meeting this afternoon where we'll be getting more information. But we are changing from evaluating courses per se to evaluating the teacher. And there will be a follow-up peer review process starting in 2025 to review courses, peer review of courses. So it sounds like we're moving in the same direction, and it will be interesting to compare this information that you're providing today with what we have. So thank you so much for having it at noon today before my 3 o'clock meeting.
I will say
I
a
can
lot of the,
deliver just in time.
oh, I'm
Go ahead.
sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, I was going to second that. A lot of faculty members in my division in particular were concerned about the rubric in particular, just because it says that it will be completed by a dean or their designee. And so many of our faculty members were not comfortable with that language just because they felt like it should be conducted by someone who is within their own, within their own field of expertise. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, I think the point that has come up is that there are programs that look at the course design, and then we're just talking about actually looking at the faculty teaching component of that. So, whether you have a comprehensive program that covers all those things or you're just focused on one. I know some institutions really take a good look at course design when the course is first developed and offered. What I'm looking for is a good model for institutions that look at all courses on a rotational basis. Anybody have a program that goes through all courses every few years?
We have one in theory, but we've never been staffed enough to actually follow through with it because we have so many courses that keep lining up for new development or things that come through that get revised because the content has changed, so they have to come through. But as far as us being able to line them up and review them, we just haven't gotten there yet, but like not for lack of wanting to.
We've got a
Yeah,
program.
we really, oh, I'm sorry. I cut off, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, don't wanna speak over anyone, but yeah, we've got a process that reviews courses every 5 years is our goal to look at them, and we incorporate peer reviews into that number. So they actually report back to us, the peers, once they review a course. And
So Ryan, is that part of your overall curriculum review process, or is that a separate process that's just for distance learning courses?
yeah, it's just for online and hybrid courses. Yeah.
It's the same for us every 5 years. And we have an instructional designer review the course to determine if it's at a point where it needs what we classify as a minor revision or a major revision. And so then from there, we try to really stay in that 5-year time frame. And then we would put them on development tracks, depending on what the recommendation is that is also shared with the subject matter expert.
Yeah, I work with Ryan at NMC, and we have a similar program where the course needs to meet 80% of our criteria, and if it doesn't pass, then typically the faculty will make it part of their next annual review for their next year as one of the things they're working on as well. So our goal is 5 years. We're still working toward it, like Michelle, though. We're not there yet.
Linda Lee, you can maybe speak on this too, but I think our faculty members will be required to submit at least one course shell for review every year. So it doesn't have to be all of their courses per se, but they do have to have one course looked at per year.
Is it one every year or one every 2 years? I'm not sure. Don't hold me to either one of those.
Yeah, the language in the standards and practices wasn't really clear, so that's a question for Kevin today.
But it does sound like we're going the direction that everybody else is.
Well, I don't know about anybody else, but at our institution, if every faculty member put one course a year up for review, we would not have the staff to do that. And I think the whole idea of a peer review process would certainly help. I don't know what size your staff is. Like Mark, you were mentioning that you have this review cycle. How many courses do you review in a given year?
Ryan can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's our goal is to get to about 55 or 60 a year. And we have people working in pairs. So Ryan and I work together, and we probably get to 30-ish. And then we have peer reviewer teams that are doing the other ones to try to make up the difference between the 55 goal and the 30 that Ryan and I have the capacity for.
And those are online courses?
Just our online and hybrid courses, yes.
Okay. I guess I have a question for the group. I'm Lynn from Lawrence Technological University. One of the things that we're doing here, because the leadership here, when we went through our higher HLC accreditation, and we had to jump through all kinds of hoops to put forth how we review and validate and ensure the quality and the experience in our online courses. We had a conversation with our HLC visiting team about why do they not ask for these questions and evidence about the on-campus courses, the face-to-face courses? Why are online singled out when, although our online offerings are growing, they're still not the majority of our product, right? Most of our students take an on-campus face-to-face experience class. And there's been a lot of discussion here at LTU as to why online still, after all these years, is held to a different standard than our face-to-face classes. Why do we take all of these steps and have all of us as professionals in this line giving so much time and attention and support to our online courses, and our face-to-face courses don't necessarily get that scrutiny? And I wonder if any of you at your institutions are having those conversations as well, because we are moving away from that distinction. We're looking at on-campus courses to make sure they are up to the same kind of quality. The rubrics that you've looked at, those questions apply to campus as well as online in most cases. So I'm just curious to know about how if you're having those conversations.
I hate to keep speaking, but at Mott, we actually do have a very similar kind of rubric that we use for our face-to-face classes, and we are to be reviewed every 4 years. So once every 4 years, the dean will come and review us. And so we do that at Mott.
Lauren, could you share that by chance? Out of curiosity or no?
Share the rubric or share what?
The traditional that you just mentioned that you have.
Oh.
I heard.
I can see if I can get a copy of one. I don't have it like with me, but I can see if I can get a copy of one and share it with the group.
We've had a similar conversation when at our institution as well. I mean, we put so much scrutiny and that's okay. I mean, certainly, but then at the same time, there's not, on the other hand, then that scrutiny for face-to-face courses. And so it's an observation that it's kind of, again, we just talked about it actually at the end of our last online instruction committee meeting a little bit as far as the scrutiny that's there and the rigor and what we have, the framework and trying to shift that mentality, like how long we've had this conversation, it seems like for decades. And, being able to move away from the terms, even just the terms like alternative and so forth. I mean, this is part of our portfolio. And so even just from that basic, language in and of itself and integrating that into the culture is significant. And there's just, I think, for us too, I don't want to necessarily say a threat, but in some ways, though, the challenge when you're offering on ground and online courses, and when online courses, the enrollment are exceeding that of the traditional, and that competition that comes in internally.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn, for the question. I was just talking about this the other day at GRCC, and back in the day when we first took campus classes and started putting them online, there was a real concern about course design because the physical classroom was being replaced by the LMS. And how can we design the same learning experiences or similar learning experiences in the online environment? So we had to have this rubric to address things that weren't really applicable as much in an online class. And then I think we kind of converge back together to say, okay, but you still are teaching. What does good teaching look like online? So, at our institution, we have an observation form for campus classrooms, and then we've adjusted that for our online classroom. But, to Lynn's question, do we now close that loop and go back into our campus class and look at anything about the LMS or the structure beyond just observing somebody teach in a classroom, right? I don't know if that made much sense, but that's kind of why we went the paths that we went, and now I think, coming back together on that. There are some comments in the chat. Yeah, I think the focus in, campus classes are observation, right? And student evaluations. All right. Any last sharing or comments?
I wanted to comment just briefly on the impact of AI on teaching and including rubrics that might evaluate that. So, like I said, the transition in the past into online, big questions. How is it comparable? Does it meet the standards? So, at the institution where I serve, University of Chicago, we are developing rubrics to evaluate AI usage because AI becomes a component. It can be a tutor, it can be a TA, or just a part of content, instructional content. So how do students interact with it? What are the licensing, ethical, and support considerations? We are developing rubrics around that. So my question to the group is whether there's consideration to include AI teaching within the course experience or course quality evaluation.
Great question, Simon. I think you stumped everybody.
I'm happy to share our rubric at this
Yes.
point, but I think that's where we are today with teaching with AI is where we were standing, when LMS is kind of rolled in, and we were trying to figure out how is that comparable, right, to instruction that was more familiar.
Excellent. All right. I will just share our screen here for a minute, and we will be having a meetup coming soon. I'll be sending out some information, but if you go to etom.org, you will see all our upcoming events over here on the right, we do have our online teaching certification, advanced certification, and the first module in the advanced certification is about online course quality. So this was a perfect fit for that. And also Kim was talking about, down the road, what do we do in faculty training? Do we recertify them? Do we give them some advanced training? So that is always an option. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I did put it out on the list, but the resources page has a lot of these resources. So just in meetups alone, all the meetups we've done, folks like Ron Stamper, who's here today with us. Kim, I got the slides up here already, and I will put the link to your Zoom recording here soon. But I really love the resource about virtual classes. So I'm adding that right now with that link to that rubric. So if you all have anything, like Simon mentioned, the idea of how's AI play into this, send them my way and I'd be happy to put them out on the website. All right. Any last comments for the good of the cause before we wrap up here? Thank you, Kim. Thank you for everybody else who shared and who just watched and listened. I appreciate your participation and we'll see you next time.